What's going on, guys? Dottz here, and today I'm bringing you all my Stamina Warden PvP build for the Elder Scrolls Online Ascending Tide patch. So in my opinion, Warden is a class that overall really hasn't been doing all that well recently. It's definitely been a bit challenging to update the Warden builds every single patch, just because the character really does feel like a watered down necromancer. But you know, the one good thing at least with the Elder Scrolls Online is that even in a case where your class isn't in the best of spots, you can absolutely find something that does work for you, does work for your playstyle, and that you can find success with. And I absolutely want to emphasize I want to emphasize that before we get into the builds today, and impress that, that's the word I was looking for, impress that upon you, that this build is very much it works for me and my play style kind of build. When we get into some of the gear and some of the sets today, especially one of the sets is going to surprise a lot of people, and so because of that, like I said, I just want to emphasize that this build is just what I like, what I use, and what works for me, and it is simply me showcasing that today. I'm by no means claiming that this is the almighty meta stamden build. This is the best thing to run. This is just, of all the things I've tried, this is just what I've enjoyed the most and found the most success with and have been having the most fun with. And a bunch of people have tried the build so far. They've said that they've really liked it, which makes me very happy. So hopefully, if you have been struggling to update your Stamina Warden and are looking for a new build to try, hopefully you can give this a shot and enjoy it yourself. So with that intro out of the way, let's actually kick it off today, and we're going to start with our monster set, and that is going to be Malabeth, the Scourge Harvester. So this gives us a line of maximum health, and when you take damage, you have a 10% chance to create a beam that steals health over 6 seconds from the attacker. While the beam holds, you gain major vitality, increasing your healing received by 16%. The beam will break if the enemy moves further than 8 meters away, and this can occur once every 6 seconds and scales off your max health, and this build gets very, very high maximum health. We can reach up to about 38.7k on this build, so this ends up being a very, very, very solid steal over that time. But the main reason, of course, that we use this is for the major vitality. Now, I personally feel that Warden needs major vitality. I tried playing multiple Warden builds without Malabeth, and I personally struggled playing all of them very much. I just feel like we need the major vitality to amp our healing, and this was just one of the pieces that I needed to kind of place into the puzzle to make the heals on the Warden feel strong. And so because of that, I just personally think that Malabeth is the best monster set for both Stam and Magden, and I do use it on both versions of the Warden, just because, again, I do think that vitality is insanely important for the class. Now, our back barrable 5-piece set and our main offensive set in the build is going to be Clever Alchemist. This is going to give us 2 lines of maximum health, a line of weapon damage, and when you drink a potion during combat, you feel a rush of energy, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 651 for 20 seconds. So personally, I really like Clever Alchemist for the Warden playstyle. I just feel that it synchronizes with the Stamden playstyle extremely well, while you're basically focused around dealing big damage and killing during like a burst window, and like you're not really doing a whole lot outside of that. And so like Clever Alchemist just even plays into the thought process of Stamden very well. On top of that, it's just like the perfect set for a meta like this, where you get a lot of maximum health and a lot of additional weapon and spell damage. Like it's literally perfect for this type of meta. So that is why Clever Alch is the back bar 5-piece. I really like the set this patch. I use it on a lot of different builds. And plus, again, like, because I think Warden is not in the best of spots, I wanted to go for like a maximally offensive set, and Clever Alch just gives so much stats. It's very stat dense, even with the downtime, so I do like it for that reason. Now, this is going to be a dizzying swing build, so for that reason, we are going to be running the Vadishran 2H on the front bar. We're going to be running a Maul, so this is going to give us, while momentum is active, casting a stamina ability while in combat is going to generate a stack of frenzied momentum for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 30 up to 10 times. After 5 or more stacks, your next heavy attack will consume all stacks and release a violent explosion of energy around you, dealing physical damage to all enemies within 8 meters, scaling off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. So this, as it stacks up, combined with Clever Alch, is going to give us very, very, very high weapon damage numbers. That's going to make our basic burst combo of Shulk's Dizzying Swing, Medium Weave, Dawnbreaker it's just going to hit very, very, very hard. There's going to be the main burst combo we're looking to pull off with this build while Clever Alk is rolling. And so Vatashran is just, you just want to use it in D-swing builds. It's what makes them really, really good right now. So we do have that on our front bar for that reason. Now, my slightly controversial 5-piece set bonus that I'm going to have on the build, but I will, attempt to explain why I do use it today, is going to be 5 pieces of Black Rose, a set that you have not seen in a very long time. This gives us a line of health, stamina, and magicka, a line of weapon and spell damage, and increases the magicka and stamina restored from the Constitution passive by 60%. So this build does run 6 pieces of heavy armor. Now, the reason that I do that is because, again, I do personally feel that the Stamina Warden needs the healing amps in order to feel like it has enough healing. Without this, you just feel like you are getting absolutely crapped on by your opponents. In my opinion, at least I did. I struggled to run the Warden in more like 5 pieces of medium. And so for that reason, I felt going into heavy was more necessary. And the reason that I even run Black Rose over something like Wretched Vitality is because, in my opinion, the Warden, especially the stamden, is one of the most truly hybrid classes in the game. One of the issues with the Warden is that it has so much different scaling. You pull out of so many different pools, and so bolstering my magicka, health, and stamina to me was very, very, very important. Our Arctic Blast heals off of our health. We use a crap load of magicka skills on this build, and then at the end of the day, this is still an inherently stam-focused build, and so I do want the stam. And so for that reason, I actually run all triglyphs on this build. I run 3 triune, and then also getting the extra 3 lines of max stat from Black Rose, I personally find extremely useful. On top of that, we essentially get a line and a half of weapon damage, which is quite helpful. And then, just like I run Wretched Vitality on my Magden, because I think that that Warden in general needs both magicka and stamina sustain, the 5-piece from Black Rose is going to help give me that by buffing up our Constitution passive. And because we are in 6 heavy for the extra bonuses for defensively as well as for our healing, we are going to be even getting more value out of Constitution because it gets boosted up by 60% from Black Rose. So if you don't like Black Rose, if you're just like morally against using it, you can go ahead and run Wretched Vitality here instead. But for me and my playstyle, I found Black Rose to work surprisingly well for my build. Like I said, especially because I do play my stamden as a more heavy armor, in-your-face brawler. I absolutely hate the hit-and-run playstyle for stamden. I just don't feel like it doesn't as good. It's weird, right? I feel like the hit-and-run playstyle on stamden, you don't do it as good as Stamplar, and then you don't brawl as well as Stampcrow. And so for me, I just felt that going for this more heavy armored playstyle, staying in people's faces, using Malabeth and your heavy armor to get insane healing, and then running a shitload of hots in the build, that to me felt like it has worked the best. So that is why we do run Black Rose as our sustain 5-piece on the build, as well as really padding up that max stat. So guys, moving into weights and traits, like I did say, we are in 1 medium and 6 pieces of heavy for the build. This should be a reinforced chest, and then everything else should be impen, this should be a reinforced chest. We should be running 4 impen and then 2 sturdy, because I do have that SMB on the back bar. We run full triglyphs on literally everything. We run triune on all of our jewelry with weapon damage enchants across the board. A Nirnhound Vatashran Maul on the front bar. You could also run this as sharpened if you want. And then I run a Nirnhound one-hander on the back bar with a restore magicka glyph. This could be literally anything though. And then a sturdy stamina shield on the back bar. Now guys, moving into our skills, our first skill is going to be Dizzying Swing. So Dizzying Swing is going to be the spammable for the build, dealing damage and then setting targets off balance. And then if you hit an enemy that is off balance, it will stun them for 2 seconds. If they're immune to off balance, it's going to snare them by 40%. This is our spammable that plays into our combination of Shulks, DB, medium weave, Shulks, Dizzying Swing, medium weave, DB, execute, opponent's dead. So this is going to be the spammable for the build, and it does come out of our stam pool. We do now use Deep Fissure on the build. Gone now is going to be the use of Stam Shulks, because this gives us something that stamden has been missing for quite a while, and that is going to be Major Breach. With the new dynamic scaling coming into the Elder Scrolls Online, you would be silly to not take advantage of this, because it's just so much extra damage that you now get that we did not previously have. So this is going to scale off our weapon damage, because this is weapon damage and stamina scaling with this character. This does come out of our mag pool though. So, you know, having that big mag pool that we do have on the build and the extra sustain is going to be really important. But this is our main burst tool. And most importantly, this now gives us access to that major breach, which gives us another 6k pen on the build, which is super, super, super useful. Executioner is going to be our execute for the build. Not really much else to say about it. It's a strong single target execute coming from the two-hander. So that is why we run it. Again, once we follow up that main combo that I've explained, Executioner is going to be what we use to basically keep people's health low and then eventually kill them. We do run Bird of Prey on the front bar. This is going to be our source of major expedition as well as minor berserk. On top of that, this does give us more animal companion passives for a % damage increase, along with Shulks on the front bar. So Bird of Prey just really gives us a ton of passive bonus on top of being a nice on-demand speed tool that, especially for a heavy armor build, is going to be extremely useful. Now, we do run forward momentum. Again, this is a heavy armor build, and so because of that, I do not have access to shuffle, and I still do need some sort of snare immunity, so forward momentum really just does fill that role well. It gives us major brutality and sorcery, as well as minor endurance, and then this is going to remove snares and roots from us. So again, this is going to be our snare and root removal tool and is very useful for a build like this. Now, I do run Dawnbreaker of Smiting on my front bar as my offensive ultimate. This is going to give me passive weapon damage that I do find quite useful. On top of this is going to deal a big burst of physical damage to enemies in front of me and an additional 16k physical damage over 6 seconds and stunning opponents for 2 seconds. So again, this is the main burst ult in our Wombo combo. So very, very good for our front bar ultimate. Now, back bar, this is going to be our big healing package here. The first one's going to be Leeching Vines. So Leeching Vines got a nice increase going into this patch with the dynamic scaling, because now the vines heal us for a really good amount every time we take damage. This used to be like a meh heal, but now with that dynamic scaling, the heal every time we take damage is absolutely fantastic. But on top of that, this also does give us minor life steal. So he heals us for 612 health every second while we damage an enemy that attacks, basically has damaged us. So it's really, really, really good. We get a lot of effective healing from Leeching Vines. I personally find it a lot better than Living Trellis because, like, there's not really situations like when you recast Trellis. I've always found that recast heal to be a little underwhelming, and so I'd rather just get 2 really strong, like, heal over times from Leeching Vines as opposed to getting like a kind of weak burst heal that I'm just going to use a different heal instead. So Leeching Vines, very good heal for this build. It's going to be one of our main hots, especially when you combine it with Resolving Vigor. It's going to give us another heal over time. This comes out of our stamina pool. So we have, you know, we have this coming out of our mag pool, this coming out of our stam pool, and we also have this coming out of our mag pool, which is going to be Arctic Blast. So this is going to give us an initial heal that scales with our maximum health. So like I said, when we have, I can show you what our max tooltip looks like. So this is going to be when our health is at its highest. So, you know, granted, I am just standing in my house, but we have 8.168 health. K health, and okay, let's try that again. We have almost 8,200 healing, and then an additional 1,000 health every second for 5 seconds, and this will scale off our maximum health. While this effect persists, you deal frost damage every second to nearby enemies, and then if they get hit by this 3 times, they're stunned for 4 seconds. So these 3 heals, combined with all of the passive healing that we get from, you know, Shulks going off, and just our animal companion passive heal from, you know, with Blue Betty and whatnot, like these 3 heals, you know, this is essentially 2 heals as well. The passive heals, like, and then major vitality on top of all that, as well as we get major mending from accelerated growth. The healing throughput on the build is really, 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 really strong. And this is a very good healing package, and you will find yourself very, very, very tanky with the setup. And so I do like these 3 heals in combination on my stamden. We do run Ice Fortress on the build. This is going to be our armor buff of choice because it gives us not only our armor, but it gives us minor protection, reducing our damage taken by 5% over the course of the duration. So it's just a little bit of extra tankiness on that armor buff that I do find very useful. Now, we do run Blue Betty in this build. I do not run Bullnetch. I run Blue Betty because this we really need the magic recovery. Like, the only difference between Blue Betty and Bullnetch now, they both give brutality and sorcery, they both purge. The only difference is that one restores magicka, one restores stamina. And if you look at this build, guys, like, now that we use mag shulks, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 magicka costing abilities, and 1, 2, 3, 4 stamina costing abilities, and the Blue Betty costs nothing. So for me, it's better to go with Blue Betty and restore my mag than go with Bull Netch and restore my stam, just simply because we do have a crap load of magic abilities in the build. So that is why we do run Blue Betty as our Netch more of choice. Now, back bar, I do run Healing Thicket. I love running a defensive ultimate on this, and I personally much prefer this over the SMB ult. This gives us an absolute my trees giant heal to us, you know, giving us a nice initial heal. It's going to heal us for 3100 as well every second for 6 seconds, and this will heal over time for 4 seconds after we leave the forest. So this could be a net 10-second hot, which is really, really strong. It's very cheap. It's only 91 ultimate, and especially if Major Vitality is going and you have Major Mending, the heal from this is just absolutely monstrous, and this also really helps out your allies and whatnot and BGs. So very, very good heal, and definitely my favorite back bar ultimate. Now, guys, moving into our stats, to truly embrace the hybrid nature of the of the stamden, I actually run 5 into Magicka, 21 into health, and 38 into stamina. This really gives me very nice, well-rounded resource pools, and I find that I have enough of all of my stats to cast my abilities. So we have 18k max mag, 35.6k unbuffed health. I believe I do not have toughness running, so we have 35.6k unbuffed health with 29k stam on the front bar and 30k on the back bar. 576 mag recovery with 1168 stamina recovery. We have 3800 weapon damage with 11% crit. Crit in the build's obviously low because it's a heavy armor build. We have 6.7k unbuffed pen, but don't forget that is going to go up by 6,000 with our shulks. We have 15.8k resistances on the front bar with 18.5 on the back bar with about 2k crit resist. We use the Lover Mundus for increased pen. This is going to really give us a nice damage increase, and so I do like that for that reason. We do also run Lava Foot Soup and Salt Rice for the increased stamina and stamina recovery, and then we do run this build as a stage 3 vampire because this gives us a lot of tankiness that we need through the Undeath passive. So as we can see here, this reduces our damage taken by up to 30% based on our missing health. So this is going to give us a lot of effective tankiness as we get lower, and if you combine that with all of the healing amps that we have, it is very, very, very good for this type of build. I also do run this as an Imperial. I think especially for this kind of build, Imperial is the best. It gives us 6% cost reduction across the board, magic abilities, stamina abilities, core combat, and ultimate, and it really helps fight against the cost increase that comes from vampirism. Also just getting a boost to our health and stamina, for especially for a build like the Stamina Warden, I do find to be very, very useful. So to me, Imperial is going to be the best race. In terms of potions, it's kind of up to you what you want to run. I personally run Tri-Stat Pots, Health Mag, and Stamina, and the major recovery buffs for all 3. But if you want even more damage, you can run Crit Pots. So you can run major, like Major Savage health and stam if you want to. Just some sort of crit pot, you could run that if you'd like, if you would like more damage, but for me, I prefer to go the more sustained route, so that is why I do run tripods. Now, guys, going into our champion points here, we run Master at Arms. This is going to give us a 10% damage increase to direct damage abilities, which most of our stuff is, so I do use Master at Arms for that reason. We do go with Biting Aura. This is going to give us a 10% AoE reduction or increase to our damage. That's going to apply to our big burst tools, which is going to be Shulks as well as Dawnbreaker. Now, I personally do run Untamed Aggression for 150 additional weapon damage. Now, this is going to apply obviously to our heals, and is going to apply to all of our abilities. Now, you do not have to run this if you don't want to. You could change this if you want to Deadly Aim to give you more damage on your Dizzying Swing as well as your Execute. But me personally, I went with this to try to get as much increase to my burst combo, which is going to be Shulks and DB as possible. So that is why I went with Untamed Aggression. But again, if you don't like this and don't feel like you get enough return, feel free to change it to Deadly Aim for increases to your Dizzying Swing as well as your Executioner. And then we also do run Ironclad for direct damage reduction. Now, in terms of red CP, we run Balanced Vitality, Health Meta, 1400 maximum health increase. I run Survival Instincts for 25% core combat reduction. I usually will run this on my SMB builds that I do plan on blocking a lot. So for that reason, I do run Survival Instincts. And then we run Sustained by Suffering for increased Tri Recovery while we have a negative effect on us. And then, of course, we have Pain's Refuge for 2% damage reduction for every 2 negative effects on us, up to a maximum of 20%. Now, guys, I've described the rotation in this build at length multiple times, but just to go over it one more time, you obviously want to maintain on yourselves at all times Blue Betty, Ice Fortress, and Forward Momentum. Your go-to combo is going to be Deep Fissure, Dizzying Swing, Medium Weave, Dawnbreaker. That's going to have the Medium Weave stun, your Frenzied Momentum for your front bar is going to go off. The Shocks is going to hit, the Dawnbreaker is going to hit, and it's all going to burst at the same time. It's going to be a lot of damage, and then you're going to want to go into your Executioner spam after that to finish off opponents. Defensively, your goal basically is to just... it depends on the situation, but like for the most part, I will start off by using Leeching Vines because it's essentially 2 hots for the price of 1, and then I'll prioritize either Resolving Vigor or Arctic Blast depending on where my resource pools are. If I need both heals, I'll use both heals. If my magic is getting low, I'll prioritize Vigor. If my stamina is getting low, I'll prioritize Arctic Blast. If things are desperate, I use all 3. The great thing with this type of healing package is that because we do use both resource pools quite a bit, you can use whichever combination of these 3 heals that you want to heal yourself up based off of where your resources are. So that is definitely something to keep in mind when you play this build defensively. If you do need to kite, you're going to obviously want to use Forward Momentum to clear yourself of roots. Use this Bird of Prey and then sprint away, and you will be able to escape. And the good thing with Survival Instincts is that will be giving us that 25% reduction on that sprint, so your sprint will not be just absolutely sapping your stamina away. But guys, on that note, I do think that's going to be it for my updated Stamina Warden build. Definitely was a bit of a challenge, but honestly, I'm really happy with how the builds came out. It does work very well for me, and hopefully, if you do try it out, it works well for you too. If you guys did like this build and liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like on it. It helps me quite a lot in the YouTube algorithm. And if you guys do have any questions about the build or just want to, tell me if you like the build or not, leaving a comment down below also really helps me with the algorithm. Plus, if you have any questions, I can actually help you guys out. So do feel free to leave a comment below. And if you guys do want to see more Ascending Tide PvP builds for ESO, please hit the sub button as well as the bell to keep those notifications on. So thank you all so much for stopping by today. I do very much appreciate it. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.